All right. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for joining Elizabeth and Jeff Beaudre with our Tipple's Wine of the Week tasting. This week, we're going to be heading over to the, I was going to make a joke about it being unknown, but Napa Valley. We're going to Napa, of all the places in the world, Napa Valley. Anyway, Grgich Hills, Napa Valley, Zinfandel. So I feel like Zins have not shown up maybe enough in the last year of tastings, and I wanted to go with something special to kind of welcome Zin back in. And this one is an exceptionally delightful Zin. So if you have not already done so, go ahead and pop open your bottles. I chose to bring our bottle down to about 60 degrees, a 30-minute light chill in the refrigerator gets it there. And pour some glasses, and then we'll get started with the next look. You don't like Zins, do you?
I really like Zins.
Yeah. Good hard splash on this guy. Let it get started with aerating. Give it a swirl. All right. If you don't mind, will you pull up the slide for me?
Sure. And I know that he kind of muttered what he was doing, but I want to explain to anybody who's new or who's watching the video that he poured it so where you could hear it like splashing and glugging to put air into it, to aerate it.
Yeah, it's just a nice little, agitate your wine. Pretend it's a sibling.
There you go. I don't know about that.
I know, that's true. All right, so food pairings for this guy. Well, let's go up to the point. So 90 plus points year after year. I didn't even get as specific because it's very consistently 90 plus points year after year after year. Grgich is such an incredible winery. One of my favorites, as a matter of fact. Food pairings for this guy. You can go from red sauced Italian dishes. So the pizza, lasagna, beef stir fry. Okay. It's really versatile, red. And then Jake, one of Jake's favorite pairings. So Jake is one of my salesmen at the store, and he's kind of a wine specialist, years and years in the high-end restaurant industry. One of his favorites goes against the grain. I don't know anyone else that suggests this, but I've had it, and I agree with him that it works. Sushi. So because of the spiciness, and if you're having something like the salmon or the tuna especially, or any of them that has a little beef in it, then it just brings it right in. So, and
evidently Megan's birthday is tomorrow, so could she pair some birthday cake with it then?
Clearly birthday cake goes with everything.
That seems like a lot.
All right.
You want to go to the next slide or stop the share?
Let's stop the share, and we'll talk about our initial impressions now that we've opened the wine, had a little sniff and a little bit of a sip. This guy is 100% Zinfandel, 14.9% alcohol, so a little on the hefty side. That's not unusual with Zins. A really spicy mixed berry would be very normal for a Zin, and this guy doesn't disappoint. Some Zins can get to where it's a bit of a dried fruit note. I don't find this one. I think this one is a little fresher than that, which is something that I look for in what I would call, say, next level Zins, higher level Zins. Okay. Man, they're good.
So I was surprised that it was 100% Zin, because I know when we do things that we call single varietals, they're not necessarily just a single variety.
Oh, right. I mean, you can have certain areas of the world where a single varietal listing on a label could be 70%. Right. And 30% other things.
Which that seems to me that you should not be able to call it a mostly varietal, but
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so this is 100%. That's actually surprising.
100% Zin. Really nice. So here we have, it's a dry wine. It's got some nice fruit to it, but this is still a dry wine. Yeah. I would call it medium acidity because it has freshness. If it tasted more like dried fruits and really in depth like that, then I would go low acidity. So that would be that kind of spectrum. All the way to if it tasted more like cranberries, this really tart zinginess, that would be to me a high acid red. I'll get this guy right in the middle.
Jeff, I it's been a very long time since I've had a Zinfandel, like a very long time, like college, like almost 20 years ago. And I thought I really disliked Zinfandels, and now I'm starting to think that I just had bad Zinfandels.
Yes, I would agree with that, because when I think of my college experience in Zinfandel, it was very different from this. So I would say the same thing.
Well, I'm glad you guys both brought that up.
Yeah,
That
no,
is-
it's a body.
I love a really nice Zin, and you're right. It can be a really eye-opening experience, and because there's a significant amount of bad Zin out there, and then we'll talk about the thing that really damaged the Zinfandel name when I get in a few slides when I get to the Zinfandel grape details, because the name Zinfandel was pretty much destroyed and dragged through the dirt in the 70s, and we'll talk about why.
Okay, well, that's the little teaser.
That's a teaser for where I'm going to jump right now. I'm going to
going.
finish talking a little bit about what we're tasting, and then we'll
Okay.
get into the grape and the history.
Okay, but I will say too that Paul, you may have had bad Zins. You may also, your taste may just have matured too. I mean, I know there were a lot of things that I drank in college that I would not touch today. So it's been a little longer for me than you, but I know that my tastes have evolved and matured to now. I mean, I drink very different things than I did in college.
Oh, for sure.
You probably drank gins at the college price.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, Jerry. I think a lot of it has to do with how much, like, a Zinfandel out of my like freezer box, like Andre, like is not this quite.
Yeah, right. Yeah, good point, Megan. And that was one of the reasons that I jumped up in price point and went with a full Napa, because I wanted to show the rich elegance that can be expressed with Zinfandel.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it can be a berry bomb. It can, but then again, they all can be. We've had cabs and things that I've talked about, you know.
Right.
But it can be such a beautiful wine as well. Rich, that tends to be across the board. It's a rich grape. But this flavors of, yes, you have this wonderful dark mixed berry, and you almost can't name a wrong berry that you're going to taste tonight, right?
Okay.
It's like black cherry, raspberry, blackberry, it's strawberry. They're all in there. Yeah, it's a wonderful mixed berry. And then the spiciness, though, where you get pepperiness
Definitely.
and baking spices in there. You also get a little clove, a little cinnamon, that kind of thing, a little allspice kind of a thing going on. Acidity in Zins can vary greatly. There can be some with almost no no acidity, all the way to this guy, which is a little higher acid version, keeps it fresh. And then tannins. Tannins also run the gambit from none to this guy's got a nice structure to it. It's got a little grip on there. I could have this with filet. I could see that. It's got enough going on for like a less fatty beef dish.
Yeah, it's got a little bite, but just a little, like a nip.
Right. Yes. Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Do
Do you want me to go to the? You just want to drink?
I wanted one more sip before I go into my next.
Okay.
The steaks tonight worked out just fine.
Excellent.
Perfect.
No problem.
Yeah, it's like this can have a nice tannin to it, which is great for red. All right. So the Zinfandel grape is a really interesting. So the Zinfandel grape is the 4th most popular grape grown in the United States. So Cabernet Sauvignon is the #1 in the world and in the US. Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and then Zinfandel. The bunches are large bunches with small sized grapes that have thin skins, but very rich skins. So that's why, unless it's well grown, you get no tannin. So they're thinner, but very intense skins, which is a combo that we've not really come across often as we talk about our different reds around the world.
Right, because we were talking 1 or 2 weeks ago specifically about the thicker the skin,
right,
like richer and bolder the flavor. So this is a contrast in that.
It is a contrast in that. And here's why. which I think goes into it the next page. So here's why. The very small berry size is why. So in small berries, like in Petite Syrah, we talked about that. It says the little Syrah, but it's the more intense. So you have a larger skin to juice ratio. So what the skin has to give, it can give more powerfully because there's more skin to juice because it's small berry sizes.
Okay.
So even though it has that thinner skin, it has a smaller berry to make up for it.
Okay.
And it's able to give that nice color. But here's the interesting thing you see in here.
So it's the volume to surface area ratio.
It is,
okay.
yes.
Yeah.
Am I saying
I'm just.
it is the volume to surface area ratio.
Okay.
Here's one of the things that's interesting in Zins is that usually, especially in like a 100% Zin, you hold it up, you can look at it, you can see through it. It's not this, even though with all this flavor, you can see through it. It does it, it doesn't, not that you can see through it easily. It's got some wonderful color to it, but it's with all this flavor, you could almost imagine it being this inky beast.
Sure.
And it is not, and that's part of that thinner skin. Obviously gives it a lot of, really deep color, but not opacity. So, that's kind of where we're going on that. On this guy, here's kind of the wheel of potential taste. Once again, from Wine Folly, full credit to you guys. Anyone who wants to learn more, Wine Folly is your guy. They're fantastic. Fruit forward, yet bold red, with a lot. And the big thing I like about them, and so many people do, is they're spicy. They've got such a great set of spice to go with it, along with fruity. And Americans love fruity. I think that's why well-made Zin, honestly, should be America's signature grape. And I'll say there's another reason for that too, which I'll get into in a second. So we're talking about the see-through. The origin of Zinfandel is Croatia. So
I want to hear you say that word.
Oh yeah, guess what?
Words.
Guess what? It has a shorter version called Tribidrag. And that's what I wrote down for me to say instead of trying to say the longer Croatian version. But it did come from Croatia in the 1800s.
Wow.
They didn't really identify what grape this was until the 1990s and where it came from.
Oh.
They knew they were growing this in California and didn't know where it was, why it was. They were just growing this Zinfandel. And then they realized, oh, this came from Croatia. This
like DNA testing.
DNA testing to identify where it was.
That's really cool. So it went from Croatia. I'm just looking at the icon there.
Right.
Croatia to Italy to California.
No, it's no, those are the places where it's mainly grown. So it's grown in California, Italy, and Croatia, even though it originates from Croatia. But so which the fourth most popular grape grown in the US, right? But there's more Zinfandel planted by almost double in the United States than everywhere else in the world put together.
Oh, wow.
So that's one of the other reasons I say this should kind of be the United States grape, where
because
you have
grow so much of it.
Right, because you have Malbec for Argentina, you have Carmenere for Chile, and so you have these Shiraz, which is Syrah, but you got these signature grapes with many of the countries. Italy splits theirs up, but in the U.S., honestly, we are the people that have taken Zin and run with it. So actually,
we're going to spread the word that they're really good Zins.
They're really good Zins. Well, we're also the ones that ruin the name Zinfandel as well.
No, I meant us personally.
Oh, us? Yes, we're the ones.
Spread the word.
I know
they're really good.
I'm starting it right now.
Okay.
Zinfandel is the national grape of the United States.
Jeff.
Yes, sir.
Hey, quick question. So I want to make sure that I heard you right. You said it's the second most produced wine in the U.S.?
It's the fourth most.
Fourth most.
Fourth most. Okay. But what was it second in the U.S.?
This thing. Well, in the U.S., Cab is number 1, Chardonnay is number 2, Pinot Noir is number 3, and then Zinfandel.
Right.
But we produce twice as much Zinfandel in this country as the rest of the world combined.
Oh, wow. So are we exporting a lot?
We're drinking it mostly, but we to the extent that they're exporting it, I would assume that we do a decent amount of that. But I really didn't see any numbers on U.S. exports of Zinfandel. There is a lot of bad Zin that we drink in this country, and it's used as a blending grape more often than you would think.
Is that why we probably grow so much of it, because we're blending it with other things?
We do. A lot of the California red blends have Zinfandel in it. And honestly, because you got this nice fruit forward, spicy, delightful grape, like use it. And it is made to grow. It ripens early. So it's kind of an easy grower.
Sure.
But like Pinotage in South Africa, all right, if you don't grow it right, you don't get the nuance. So yeah, you can get a bunch of very juicy wine from Zinfandel and make a bunch of it cheap, which they do. Hence some of the issues that we're talking about, where they're, like Pinotage can be wonderful and it can be awful.
It's not easy to grow Zinfandel well.
It takes a lot of extra work. It takes a lot of extra work to get that real quality from it. Yes. Well, compared to what you could do. Because you can just throw it out there and get a bunch of juice to sell, or you can put in the work to really get quality out of the grape. So here we are. So just to put this, 43,000 acres of Zinfandel in the United States. Italy's number 2, 27,000 acres in Italy. So Croatia, where it comes from, 170 acres. That's it. That's all that's left.
Wow.
That seems crazy to me.
Yeah.
So I talked about, I think it's our signature grape,
Yeah.
famous for like a jammy flavor with kind of tobacco and spices.
See, but for me, when I hear the word jammy, I think sweet. But when we talk about wines, we're just talking about like fruity. not
Fruity
sweet.
berries,
Okay.
right? But honestly, there are plenty of Zins out there that jammy means it's pulling on sweet.
Well, I remember the Zins that I drank in my 20s that were
Right,
very,
yes.
very sweet that I would not touch now.
And then there is the name-destroying monster that is pink Zinfandel. That is what really messed people up with Zinfandel. And people hear Zin to this day in the store. Zinfandel, no thank you, I don't like sweet wine. No thank you, I don't like rosés. Pink Zinfandel messed it up for not only Zin, but also for rosés, because they look alike.
Right.
And everyone assumes it's cheap, sweet wine, which, by the way, came about by accident. They had a stuck fermentation that they didn't realize, and they bottled it. And then they're like, oh my gosh, this is sweet. And they just shipped it anyway. And the Americans went nuts for it in the 70s. And thus the monster was born that destroyed rosé and Zinfandel.
Yeah.
Pink
That's
Zin.
probably the
And
one.
my
that-
father joined that crew of destroying it. He loved white Zinfandel.
White Zinfandel. I said pink, white Zin.
Yeah.
My grandmother drank white Zin all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
But he also liked like wine coolers. So that's all I'm gonna
Well,
See,
they taste
that
very
my
similar.
20s wine coolers. White Zin.
Tell you, I love my Nana, but she drank that white Zin. Good old white Zin. Ugh.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
just caused so many problems.
My mom grew up drinking strawberries Zinfandel, so when she poured it out, I was like, "Wait, I thought this was a Zinfandel." So I didn't know there were dark Zinfandels till now. It took 38 years. So
But that's the thing. And you look, Brian, I still have this discussion on a regular basis, which is Zinfandel is a dark red wine. It is, those others are a rosé of Zinfandel, which, by the way, I will drink a dry rosé of Zinfandel, but I don't want a sweet rosé of Zinfandel. I just don't. And I'm not against sweet wines. Jerry and I drink wonderful German wines that have sweetness to them, but they have balance and minerality. A white Zinfandel has none of these things. It's just meant to be mass produced.
Well, I mean, I think the comparison to wine coolers is a good comparison as far, obviously it doesn't have the sparkling,
Right.
The effervescence of it, but it's got a similar taste when you're dealing with that white Zin.
It does. And I hadn't thought of it till you mentioned it. I was like,
Well,
what?
yeah, Harry
Mhm.
brought it up. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Mhm.
totally makes sense. It does have a very similar taste. It just,
Yeah.
it is what it
So
is.
no wonder I liked it back
I
in
think
the
that
day.
was literally the picture I sent you guys at Thanksgiving. That his mom got like
Oh,
a
yes.
Yes, it
big
was.
bottle. It was the big Behringer of
Yes.
pink Zin, and I sent
Yes.
it to Jeff Elizabeth at Thanksgiving, and I was like, "Help me."
Yeah.
She sent it like with this emoji.
Yeah. My recommendation at that point is to get the most out of it,
Mhm.
distill it into a spirit.
Yeah. There you go.
It's got plenty of sugar
She made
for
like
it.
a hunch punch out of it.
right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's the other thing I drank in college.
No,
Punch.
there we go. So anyway, there's our story on rosé. Let's jump back in and we'll look at more of the slides. We'll talk about where this guy came from.
Okay. You want to
Please advance. Yes. All right. So here we have, in this case, with the anatomy of the grape, we do have a thin skin, but a very intense skin. I tell you, if somebody could maybe crossbreed Tannat with its thick skin and robustness with the Zinfandel, so that you get rid of some of that astringency that can come out of Tannat, it may be the best grape in the world. Who knows?
It might.
You know, maybe I'm going to have to go back to agriculture school. Like I went there first. Anyway, so thin skin, but intense. Small berry size. So we have a lot of, skin to skin contact ratio. Thank goodness, because it does make a beautiful wine. I love these wines.
Yeah.
I love a really well-made Zin. And I love all the peppery spiciness.
I do too. I need a refill before we go.
Oh, I like it. That means it's a winner, everybody.
Normally he proactively does this, but
I'm caught up in my
there you
presentation.
go.
So acidity levels are medium to low on these guys. So at the center of the grape, you're talking about. So its intensity is on the outside. It's more modest on the inside because its acidity levels are more modest. And go on to the next one, please. All right, so here we go. Where are we today? Carmen Sandiego is making wine in California. So pretty much right in the middle of the growing zone. Nothing shocking there. Wine regions in the USA. We are here. And it's interesting, you see it smattering around. That's a large area there.
It really is, that northern Kentucky and southern Ohio. But no, not interested in going there. Okay.
Not going to do it. Not going to do it. All right, so here we go. North Coast. We're up in the North Coast of California with all of their growing. California is such an amazing area for growing wine. We're in the North Coast in Napa Valley. Let's go in here. So here we are. Napa's over here. We're pretty much right in the dead center this time. So valley floor, there's mountains here and here. Valley floor, right in the center. We're in Rutherford. So within the different sub-appellations within Napa. So Rutherford, let's talk a little bit. All right. So Napa Valley, the most prestigious growing region in the United States. Nothing shocking there, I think. Rutherford within Napa, valley floor, rolling hills. It's going to have a ton of sunlight. The soil is pretty cool. All right, so this soil is gravel, loam, and sand. So we've got obviously gravel. We can all picture. Loam is that kind of a light, a little more intensive, like almost a combination of clay and sand, but it kind of allows a lot of filtration of water to get down. And sand, but with the minerality. This is the interesting thing. So we've talked about down in Sonoma and especially Carneros at the bottom of Napa Valley, where it's a lot of there's a lot of seabed marine chalkiness.
Oh, sure.
Right. And then we were up north of Napa and we talked about Lake County, which is all about the mountain runoff and all of it coming down, so that's volcanic. This is a mix of both. So this has the seabed and the volcanic have come to the middle of Napa Valley and give it this incredible character, which I knew that you had this, why is Napa so great? And then you get this like, oh, it's where land, fire and water and their effects on the earth meet together.
That's really cool.
Low humidity, high sunlight.
Is there a term for that? Like there's a term for when like freshwater and saltwater, it's brackish, but is there a term for like no?
Yes, this is called brackish dirt.
Brackish dirt.
Brackish dirt, but once again, just like Zinfandel being the official grape of the United States, we just made it up. So.
Yeah, there you go. Brackish dirt.
Brackish dirt. Here it is. That's what we have.
The next one.
Yes, yes, please. Growing temperatures during the growing season, temperatures are low 90s as a high, with mid 50s in the evening. Cools off very quickly.
Actually, the low 90s really surprises me that it gets that hot.
Oh yeah, no, in Napa, it'll get warm. And if you go on the, if you keep heading east, you're in the 100s on the other side of those mountains.
Yeah, I knew on the other side of the mountains, but that's interesting.
And Sonoma stays cooler before you get over the mountain.
Okay.
Because they've got more of the maritime influence of the fogs. But anyway, so there we go. Let's go ahead to the next one. So I talked about rolling hills and a valley floor. So I thought this was kind of, a nice picture showing. This is from Rutherford. So you're up on a hill here, but you're seeing that floor until you hit the far side with the mountains.
And then mountains.
Yeah, so that is the eastern side of Napa, is what you're looking at.
That would be nice to have as a backyard, right?
Right.
Go out on your back porch, look out at that.
There you go. It's like there's that's my patio.
Yep.
Best place in the world.
That sounds good.
Right. Okay. Moving to the next one, please. Grgich. All right. So who is this Grgich and why do they hate valleys? Right. So Grgich was founded in 1977 by Mike Grgich and Austin Hills. So that's Grgich Hills estate. I always thought it was about the hills, it's hills, but actually it's the two gentlemen's last names. So Hills, Austin Hills of the Hills Brother Coffee family.
I don't know them.
So anyway, all right. So Hills Brothers Coffee, huge coffee family.
Okay.
So Austin ran the business side and had the investment side. Mike Grgich had just won. He had just created the wine for Chardonnay that won the Judgment of Paris in 1976.
Oh, I remember that from watching the movie.
Right. So Mike Grgich worked for Chateau Montelena, and the 1973 vintage of Chateau Montelena Chardonnay in 1976 won the Judgment of Paris with Napa Valley against the best of France and freaked everyone out. And so Mike Grgich made that Chardonnay for Chateau Montelena. Within a year, he had his own vineyard. Well, of course he did. It turned the wine world on its ear. So Austin Hills already had the Hills Estate Winery, and then he went and he said, "Look, Mike, let's do this." And so, in order to get him on board, he put his name right on there, made him a 50-50 partner.
He put his name on it first, too.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
And he was right to do so because the wines are fantastic.
So, I mean, that was.
Let's face it, Grgich Hills sounds way better than Hills Grgich.
It does. It does.
That's a good point.
That is true as well.
That's right.
So, I'm assuming he's not still making the wine,
Still involved.
Still involved. That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way,
because it's been 50 years almost.
Right.
Yeah.
So you know what kind of name Grgich is?
Sounds German.
Croatian.
Oh, and that's with the
Zinfandel.
Okay.
All right. Right. See. It all comes together.
Okay.
Life finds a way. Right. So Grgich Hills. Here we go. Taste it. Sustainable and organic, and everything we're drinking that you will drink from Grgich, all estate. So they control all of it.
Oh wow.
They're not buying anything. They're growing it all. They're controlling it 100%. It's all sustainable and all organic.
They jumped through a lot of hoops to get that organic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They put the work in.
So that's the wine train
that is the wine train that goes through Napa that's coming through there, right? And you can see like valley floor because we can see the hills coming up, right?
Yeah, because it looks very flat where we are right now.
Yeah. And that's there it is. So here is the crew, right? All right. So that's Mike and
that's him.
That's him.
That's awesome.
So the woman is Violet Grgich, and she's the president of the company now.
Okay.
And then the gentleman on the left is Ivo Jeromas. I went awfully French on he is on the name. However, he is his nephew. They brought him over from Croatia in 1986, and he learned everything from Mike, and then also went to school separately. And now he's in charge. He's the vice president in charge of growing and production.
So it's still much family.
It is very much family.
And are the Hills involved at all?
They are, but they're not hands-on. Just
Okay.
like it's always been that relationship.
Yeah, it's the business side of it.
Right.
Okay.
So they're very much involved, but it's on the business side
Okay.
rather than the creative side,
Okay.
as from what I could see. But they were all there. There's another picture, which I had a lot of pictures, so I kind of pulled back. But it was the Hills and the Grgich family, and it was an immense picture with all the way through the grandchildren. So it seems like they're all still very much
So
there.
these pictures are from their actual website?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm. Tis the case.
All right, cool.
All right.
Next.
Yes. So here is where the Zen is coming from. So this is they have multiple different plots that they control that are theirs. Like I said, they're all a state, but this is the one that has the Zen, and you can see how it kind of breaks down. They've got, the Zen here and here and here. There's one area, this old vine Zen. These are, well, it says there, 100-year-old vines. So they've been there from basically the time it came over in the 1800s. So these are some of the first Zinfandel vines planted in the United States, and they have that control, and then have the Zen working around them as well. And they've got some Cab, a little Merlot, but anyway, I thought it was fun to take a look.
Is that Petite Sirah?
Petite Sirah, yeah. Which it's interesting. Petite Sirah and Zen are often put in there together. It makes a very intense, dark, rich wine, which is cool. I have no problem with that. But I'm really glad this is. I really want us to explore. I like it when we can explore kind of a pure version.
We can taste what that grape
Right.
should taste like.
Next, please.
Well, I was just looking. This is really interesting. Dates planted 1889.
Right. There you go.
Yeah. And then we've got almost 100 years passes to the next one.
Yeah.
And then, yeah. Very cool.
So just take a look a little bit at what it's like at the winery, at the tasting room. It looks hideous, clearly.
I just love when we see pictures of California. There are no screens. I'm sure they don't have to spray for the bugs that we do.
Right.
That nobody's hair is all like frizzed up or anything because they don't have the humidity that we do. It's really it's like a better version of Florida.
Your lips are cracking and your nails are dry.
Well, there is that. And the dryness,
true.
the lack of humidity does add up.
Yeah. And you can like rent 800 square feet of apartment for,
Yeah, there is that.
4,000
Yeah.
a month. So there you go.
All right. So we're on to ratings. Like I like to cover it every time. You do not need to be 90 plus to have a good wine. That is a very, very good wine. If you had an 88-point wine, drink that wine, and you're likely to really, really enjoy it. And sometimes we get a spread of ratings, like what was it last week's? The one that had an 87 and then a 93?
Yes. Yeah.
So
it was a pretty big spread considering what it takes to get a 93.
Yeah, and it was, that was surprising, which was highly unusual. But this guy's clustered right around 90, 91 all the time. So that would make it, in this case, an outstanding wine, superior character and style. Let's jump over and talk to each other about what we're thinking. Or do we think very good wine with special qualities, or a wine for the ages?
Type in the chat box what you think. So Brian and Julie are at 89.
Okay.
Wow. They were the same, I think, for the second week in a row.
I don't even know what's going on. It's a mind meld. I suspect Brian's taken over.
91 to 92. Megan really likes it, 94.
Nice.
You got a 92, 91 to 92. Tucker's going with 90. See it, yeah, I really like it. I would have been like 92, 93.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I really like a good Zen.
Right.
So
well, yeah, and it's opened up.
92s, 89 from Rachel and David. Not sure if they agree or they often don't. So you both agree.
Both agree.
Oh wow.
Oh my God. You know what? This wine is
Consuelo, 90.
This wine's bringing everyone together.
So we have from 89 to 94. That's a pretty big spread for us. We've got an outlier. Yeah, there's an outlier at 94.
That's true. But you know what? Yeah. I'm totally cool with that. So this is where I do my whole thing. I'm like, and the real number is right. Just kidding. No. I would go, I think it's an exceptionally good Zen. I would go 92.
Oh, I
Yeah.
think I
That's
said
what you said.
91 on the
Yeah.
yeah.
I would go 92. I think it deserves the extra bump. I think a 90 easy. 89 obviously is right there, so I don't think anyone's really
Right.
in an outlier. But I would give it that extra bump because it's got, like, as it's opened up too, it's got the ability to have it with a full steak, as is in. And I just am a sucker when it has enough body to really, really.
I don't want to, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I let this aerate before opening because having lived in Italy, you have to aerate all Italian wines. You can't just drink them out of the bottle or they will like burn your tongue. But I let it aerate for about 30 minutes before, and the spiciness, the part of the reason I graded it so high is like the spiciness. You could have it, like you said, with a full steak. And also it's, also I've had 90, I've had wines that are graded 90 that are definitely not as dynamic.
Oh, right. Yeah. No, I think I agree with you 100%, Megan. I think it is an exceptionally good Zin, which is why I wanted you guys to drink it. I wanted to share that with everybody.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Grgich production, period. They're exceptional, but this Zin is outstanding. And I'm with you. I'm probably just holding back a little bit on my assessment because I am gushing a little bit when I talk about it.
The fact that it can stand up to a steak, though, I
Yeah.
think that's fantastic. But I think it's still approachable for people that don't like the giant, big, aggressive cans. You know.
Sure. I agree. Well, and the thing is, anything that you can say, wow, this guy can handle a steak. I would even say a steak with blue cheese. And now it's really working on me. So that's an aggressive.
Is that because
that's an aggressive pairing? Well, it's also my favorite. But
it doesn't suck the moisture out of your mouth. You know, like you still have more to.
True.
You're right, and because that's the great thing, Megan. I think the way I would describe that is, I can drink it. I'm drinking it without a food pairing right now, and enjoying it immensely. And I love that flexibility.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Like in the thin skins, the less tannins, it doesn't bite.
Yeah, it nips. Just a nip.
Like I say,
Just a little bit.
And this has a lot of tannins compared to other Zins. But you're right. This is a highly tannic Zin, but it's still not highly tannic to the point of something like Megan was talking about Italian wine. I mean, if you were to have a Barolo that had not opened, that's going to like almost weld your mouth shut. So love them, but you got to let them open.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Share.
Yes.
Okay.
Have you noticed the legs on this thing, Jeff? I mean, you swirl it and it looks like an oil slick on the inside of your glass.
Oh yeah, right. It's got some really nice. You've got that alcohol in there. You've got a nice viscous effect on those legs, but not too much. Like there are Zins where if you did this, not that there's anything wrong with a tinted leg, but you can get tinted legs, in there. And if it's from the right reason, because you have that much of an intense grape, great.
So it depends on the grape.
It depends. But they can do it just by additives and such too, and then it's not so good.
Okay.
But anyway, but yeah, you look at that, it's a kind of a nice pretty legs as they fall down there. It's a good point, Jared. Thank you.
Okay. And next week.
All right. So I don't know if next week we are going back to California. We're going back to Napa Valley. We're going back to Grgich Hills because it's time for a white, and one of my favorite whites in the world is the Grgich Hills Fumé Blanc. And I decided, you know what? Let's do it. Back-to-back Grgich. I'm a huge fan. And I'll stand by it. They're outstanding winemakers. And so the Fumé Blanc is a Sauvignon Blanc that sees oak instead of all stainless steel production.
Okay.
And it adds a little smoky richness to it. So that is what a Fumé Blanc is. We'll talk about the name, origin, and all that next week. Nice pairings: chicken, smoked fish, salmon, scallops, lobster, sushi again. That will work. And like I was thinking, a wild mushroom salad. Like some raw mushrooms.
Sure.
Nice.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be delicious.
Oh, hold on. We have something in the chat box.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So Susan and Kristen like the food pairing suggestions for next week.
Oh,
Awesome.
awesome. Thanks.
Fantastic. So yeah. So we go back to sushi,
Mhm.
even though I mean, I'll drink a red with anything.
Yes.
Literally. So I would go with Jake's suggestion for this week. I don't know, like if it would, like drinking it, do you feel that sushi works with it?
I honestly, I was very skeptical,
Uh-huh.
but with a well-made Zin,
Mhm.
with like a spicy tuna or even regular tuna or salmon, or there are the different rolls that have seared beef.
Mhm.
Any of those, I get that. I
Okay.
get it. I can go there.
Yeah. Yes, Northwest Seafood next week for sure.
Yeah, right.
There
Absolutely.
you go. Absolutely. So, okay. We will stop the share.
I do love me some scallops. I'm just
Yep,
saying.
I know Jeff's favorite seafood, scallops.
Scallops. I love
Mhm.
scallops so much.
Yes. And mine is Goliath grouper, and they're supposed to open a fishing season again for them soon.
really?
I just read an article about it.
Oh,
So
well, I'm
there
glad
you
they've
go.
recovered. It's
Yep.
fantastic.
yeah, evidently they're causing a lot of problems in Tampa Bay. So
There's too many of them.
they're
eating.
they're
everything.
eating everything. It was the quote from
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's time for the circle of life to reconnect.
There you go. Okay, so Brian will be out of town for the next 6 days in a row. Definitely be doing takeout Tuesday night. There you go. Well, you have a great sushi restaurant around the corner from you, Julie. So
Yep.
yeah, you can just do
Sorry,
takeout.
I unmuted myself. Which one? Volcanic?
I was gonna say the one, oh, what is it? It's near One Love.
Oh, Ichiban.
Yes.
Oh, Ichiban's good.
Yeah.
And she has
Yeah,
volcanic
Ichiban.
right next to it too. Then.
Oh,
I thought you were gonna say
over
volcanic,
there?
and I was like,
Yep.
the volcanic in Hale is better than the volcanic in Millhopper.
Okay, let's maybe pick this up after the recording.
But volcanic is
Yeah,
great.
Yep.
As is Ichiban.
That's right. But anyway, and it's a shame because Brian is leaving in time for us to have the next white wine.
Right?
No, he'll be back in
I'll be
time.
back for it.
So I was
Oh,
saying,
okay,
Oh,
good, good.
Okay, perfect.
unless he comes home like from a bachelor party ready to cook,
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Probably
we'll be
not.
getting takeout next Tuesday because I'm not going to be cooking again because I've been alone in the kitchen for the last 6 days.
Right.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no.
All right. Well,
We ready
let's
to cheer?
toast, and then we can start the after party and
Okay.
do all kinds
Cheers,
of things. All right.
everyone.
Monta, thank you for coming.
Joining us.